now I'm going to talk about how to consume those packages that you installed inside of your own modules. So let's do that. So I'm going to head over to my package folder. I'm going to make a new file, not a new folder, a new file. I'm going to call it index.mjs, and I want to consume that Lodash package that I just installed. So what you would probably want to do is go look at the documentation on how to do that. So in the sake of following my own advice, I'm going to do that. I'm going to look at the documentation and see if maybe they're up to date with ES modules and they have a really great thing. Wow, that's so many files. Oh my goodness. Here we go. So the documentation is basically using CommonJS. It's using the require statement. So I'm gonna see if I can get lucky and try out these ES module imports instead. So I'm gonna say Lodash is usually used as an underscore, and that's a play on another library called _JS, which Lodash replaced. So usually people use the underscore variable name for Lodash. So I'm gonna do the same thing, import from Lodash. So we'll try that. And let's just see if this import actually works. Let's see what happens. So now I'm going to run that code. And it looks like it worked just fine. So the interop here was just fine. The creators of Lodash must have anticipated this and made sure I was able to import it with no problems. So a couple things to notice here. Let's go back to what we were working on earlier. Before, when we were importing modules that we created, notice that I put this ./ here, right? This is very important. This is not optional. When you put a ./ or if you got to go up a couple levels or whatever that is, as long as there's a dot there, this is telling NPM, this is telling Node that, hey, I want you to resolve a module that I created locally. This is a local module that I created. It's on the file system. It's in this project. It's in this directory somewhere. Go get it. It's a file. But when you don't put the dot in front of it or a slash like that, it's telling NPM and Node that, hey, this is either an internal module like FS, or it's something that I installed via NPM and it's in the Node modules folder. So what Node is going to do and NPM is going to do, it's going to first check to see if this is internal. If it's not, then it's going to recursively start walking up your directory tree and checking every Node modules folder until it finds the matching thing. If it can't find it in the current working directory, then it'll error out. I mean, it'll literally go all the way up to like the global folder of your computer looking for it. So if it doesn't find it, then it's like, oh, I can't find this module. Like for instance, if I change this to something else and I try to run this code, it's going to say module not found. I literally cannot find that module right there. So it's going to keep looking. So if you have multiple Node modules folders above this folder and then something exists in there, it'll find it and use it. And that may or may not be what you want. So just be cautious of that it's going to keep looking for the closest one until it resolves this package. You can change that behavior if you want, but it's not worth it. Cool. So that's how we use those packages. And then as far as like if we wanted to uninstall this package, we could say npm uninstall followed by the name Lodash. And as you can see, it'll remove it. If I check the package lock, it's no longer there. If I check the package JSON, it's no longer there. It's gone. So uninstall completely removes it from the Node modules folder as well, which as you can see was deleted because I don't have any more modules. So NPM was smart enough to just delete it for me. It just seems like nothing was ever there in the first place. So that's how you uninstall. Now we did have a question about NPX. So I want to talk about NPX. But before we talk about NPX, I want to talk about global installs of packages. So far we've been installing packages locally to a project, as in it's going to exist inside of this app that I'm making and nowhere else. If you're not in this app, you can't use it. But sometimes you want some packages to exist globally on your machine, and that's useful for things like a CLI. For instance, NPM is a CLI. And did you know that you can install NPM with NPM? Yeah, I know, it sounds crazy, but you can, because NPM is a package itself that can also be installed with NPM. So can Yarn. You can install Yarn with NPM if you wanted to. And both of those should be global because we want to be able to use them from our terminal like this. If they were not global, we couldn't use them. So if you want to install something global, you would do npm install followed by the name. Let me try Yarn this time. And then you would say -G for global. And then you would try to install it. So you can see right now, I just installed Yarn globally. So if I say which Yarn, you can see I have Yarn now. And I used npm to install that globally. Now, sometimes there are some global CLI, some global tools that you don't want to install, but you need some functionality out of them for this one-off thing. Maybe it's a scaffolding tool, maybe it's a deployment tool, but it's just something you don't really want to keep around, but you do need to run it right quick. That's where npx comes from. So npx was also installed when you installed Node. It's already here. If I type in which npx, I should see that, hey, I had this thing called npx. npx is basically like running one-off global installs. So instead of installing Yarn, I could have just said npx and then Yarn, and then whatever command that Yarn can do. So in this case, Yarn has like a Yarn add. Then I'm gonna say Yarn add Lodash. So I'm telling npx to tell Yarn to install Lodash for me. So it's very meta. And this, you can see it executed pretty quick. So it basically just runs that tool for us, whatever this tool is. In this case, it's Yarn. And whatever functionality that that command has, it runs that without actually installing Yarn. Even though I have it installed on my machine, if I didn't, npx will still work the same way. So it's great for one-off global tasks that you don't want to install. So CI environments or CLIs that you just know you're not going to use other than for like this one thing, it's perfect for that. And then to uninstall globally, you would just literally do the same thing as before, the uninstall, but you would just say that -G, and it will uninstall it. And it's that simple. It's gone. So npm came up a long way. It didn't used to be this good, but now it's pretty good. I've used Yarn pretty much the whole time it's been out, and I just recently switched back to npm because it's amazing. But it doesn't really matter which one you use. They're both really, really good. Any questions on any of that so far?
Does it make any difference if we use dependencies versus using dev dependencies in package.json?
Good question. Yes, I was going to talk about dev dependencies. Yeah, so where was I talking about dev dependencies? Yes, I was going to talk about dev dependencies in the testing section, but I'll hint at it just now. There is the only difference when it comes to dependencies and dev dependencies is how and when they're installed. But as far as functionality, there's no difference. You can use a dev dependency the same way you can use a regular dependency. It just comes down to how and when they're installed. Yeah, good question. Question was, is there a problem if we use npm and Yarn in the same project? I would say, yeah, there would be a problem because now everyone else has to do the same thing. Because like, okay, now there's a yarn lock file that says, here's the package of the version that we need. And now there's a package lock file that says, well, here's a package of the version that we need. So which one's the source of truth? I don't know. I guess it depends on which one you installed with. Yes, they both will write to the package.json file, and at least your dependencies will be in there. But if any of those dependencies required a conflict, like for instance, if you had a mono repo that had like React in it, and then there was another React app living next to it that was meant for like Storybook, or I don't know, whatever your configuration was, then how do you know what version of React to resolve to? And how do you know which tool did the resolution? Was it Yarn or was it npm? Well, you don't. So you'll just end up with probably the wrong version compared to everyone else. So if you are working on an existing project that's already using something, use that. I highly recommend using that. And if you made a mistake and you use something else, delete it. Do not check it in to Git and just get rid of it. One thing that I've done in the past is I've always added like a script to the package.json. So if you go to package.json, you can add whatever you want here. And sometimes it might make some sense to like make a script here that like does something, right? So this is npm. So now if you run like, now it doesn't really matter what you do. It can be very confusing if you try to put 2 in there. I highly recommend just use whatever is in the project and don't try to do anything else because everyone else has to also change as well. So yeah, just delete it.